When you don't know what you're gonna do, when you don't know, baby at the spot, they care for you, or where for you, yeah they fuck with you. When you got good news, they want with you. Got your different views, still with you. They stay with you, every day for you. Through the highs and lows, they stay for you. It's so nice to feel appreciated and to know that it's real. We're gonna fight every fight as a collective. We're gonna do just what's right as a collective. We're gonna move as one, never quit till it's done. Stay focused and selective, Alice Collective. Through the stormy skies, they fight for you. When the world denies, they lie for you. They fuck with you, on the block with you. Yes, they tick tock and lock with you. When things go.
When you think of it, and we figured it was time to start. We haven't had the situation arise. This was a terrible situation. We haven't had it arise yet, but we're looking at going back a little bit and see what we can do about that. Yes, strongly. Yeah, go ahead.
On the call with President Putin today,
Yeah.
you mentioned that the Pope would like to take a role potentially in mediating that talks. Does that mean the U.S. is taking a step back from?
No. I think it'd be great to have it at the Vatican. Maybe it would have some extra significance. And I saw that it was discussed yesterday, so I thought, and people told me that they'd be honored to do it. I would imagine they would be. So, no, I think it would be maybe helpful. There's tremendous bitterness, anger, and I think maybe that could help some of that anger. So having it at the Vatican would be, in Rome, would be I think it'd be a great idea. Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead.
As you know,
What's going on with you?
Ukraine, President Zelensky agreed to that 30-day ceasefire that's been on the table all of that time. What was the extent of your conversation with President Putin today about having him agree to that same 30-day ceasefire proposal that you, Mr. President, put on the table?
Well, what we've done, and very strongly, is we said, let's get this thing going. You know, I had many of the leaders of European nations on the line with me right after the call. And we have to get that thing solved. 5,000 young people every single week on average. And I've seen satellite pictures. You don't want to see these pictures. We'll have to see what happens. This was not my war. This is not a war that would have happened if I were president. This is not my war. I'm just here to try and help. We've spent hundreds of billions of dollars on this war, and yet that's not, frankly, we made much more than that just in 4 days in the Middle East. It's a lot of money, but we do much. This is about thousands of people dying every single week. 5,000, 6,000 people dying every single week. And just like you have the relatives here, wives and children and everything, you know, these soldiers, they say goodbye in Ukraine and in Russia. And then their parents never see them again, except maybe in pictures of horrible scenes, because I've seen some scenes, I've never seen anything like it. So we're going to see if we can get it taken care of. Yeah, please.
Our thanks to the members of law enforcement who are here, and our condolences to the families. We're very sorry for their loss. Mr. President, on Ukraine and on your call today that you had with President Putin, you said last week that you thought nothing was going to happen, no advances would be made until you and Putin got together. Do you still feel that way?
I think something's going to happen. It's a very big egos involved. I'll tell you, big egos involved. But I think something's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'd just back away.
Hit that like button. Hit that like button.
This was a European
Share it live.
Situation. It should have remained a European situation.
Share it live. Let's keep being informed. Let's try to be as informed as possible.
We got involved much more than Europe did in terms of the money.
I'm not gonna lie. I looked some stuff up last night,
and this whole thing seems suspect, right? Poland is not releasing or giving permission for troops to come in to help Ukraine. So Poland is trying to stop the peace of Ukraine, or as far as the Russian and Ukraine peace go. Poland's, it's not going to look good with the Polands. It's not going to look good with the Baltics. These are two groups that basically, if Russia's not beefing with Ukraine, then it could come towards them. So they want to close the doors on this. This is going to be the toughest peace agreement if it does come to an agreement. But there's also a lot of catches with this. One, right now Ukraine cannot have an election. Now this could be an illusion. This whole peace thing could be illusion, right? Because they already got, a campaigning party ready for when elections start, right? I think the guy's name is like, Zaluzhy, Z-A-L-U-Z-H-Y or Z-H-N-Y-I. So that's the person who they're going to replace him with, right? So, and that's what I'm thinking. Like, maybe it's smoke and mirrors. Maybe it's a way to, act like it's peace, and then just to get an election going so they can get their figurehead in there that they want to sit there. And that person might be more agreeance towards Russia or more agreeance to America. I don't know. But I know they want Zelensky out of there, right? And the only reason why they have not got him out of there is because the last 3 years he's been trapped there because of the war. But they would have been put an election in place to get him out of there. But let's keep listening, and we'll try to stay as posted as possible with this and try to bring everybody up to par with this. We'll look at the lines and the areas that they are arguing and fighting over. We'll look at them lines and go over them. Nuclear, refineries, whatever the case may be. Russia might not have as many reserves as we think as far as resources go. This could be more about minerals. Trump is saying no Americans on the ground, but he's not counting out our airspace or the air protection. So I think the trick about this is saying no Americans on the ground, but you'll put our Air Force troops over there, or, we'll have to train them with, certain equipment from our Air Force. So we're going to see how this whole thing goes. I mean, we probably got like 3 more weeks before we find out if the Trilateral meeting is going to happen.
All of the things that we give a massive, I think, record-setting.
Hey, you follow that money. You follow that money. That's what I did last night. Followed that money.
Europe gave a lot also, but they didn't give anywhere near what we did. We gave probably almost 3 times the amount. And it's just a shame.
Follow that money.
The level of death is just a shame. Yeah?
Did you ask President Putin to meet with you?
Hey, you too. Everybody in the comment section say, follow that money.
I said, when are we going to end this? I've known for a long time now. I said, when are we going to end this?
I've known Vladimir for a long time now.
It's a bloodbath. And I do believe he wants to end it. When I made the call, I told the people last night, I spoke to the head.
I'm not sure, but allegedly, supposedly, while all this is happening, Trump is trying to, allegedly, supposedly, he has people looking to get their hands on the Epstein's files to alter them. But we already know that you took flights, that you hung out with him in '93.
Italy, as you know, UK is on the line today, and a couple of others, and then they were in turn.
Hey, appreciate you, Craig.
Everyone. Ursula was there from the
I'll say,
European
follow that money.
Union. She was
Promise
terrific.
you, follow that money.
We spoke for a long time about it, and
Y'all share the live and hit the like button so we can build the room up.
Problem. It's a terrible war. It's a very hard to extradite themselves away from what's
It's early.
taking place.
It's
out
early.
there.
We're gonna be
The
here
amount
for a
of-
couple of
The
hours.
amount of anger, the amount of hate, and the amount of death. It's very hard, very tough situation. But I said to him, you gotta get going. And I did say also, if I thought that you couldn't do it, I'd step away, because what are you gonna do? We don't have boots on the ground, we wouldn't have boots on the ground. But we do have a big stake, and the financial amount that was put up is just crazy. It's crazy. This isn't for us, this is for somebody else. The amount of money that we put up is record-setting. Never been anything like this.
Hey, drop
And
the
that
beat.
includes
What's going
weapons.
on with
Never
you?
been anything like this. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, on
Love is love, man.
how
Appreciate
far
y'all for
back do you
being here.
intend to
Appreciate
look
all
and
y'all.
consider for the recipients, and then on your call today, if Putin ultimately proves to be the obstacle to peace, is further arming Ukraine on the table at that point?
Well, we'll look. I mean, we're gonna look. I hope that, I like to think positively, frankly. I just can't believe that they allowed this to continue. This would have never happened if I were president, and most people admit that. It would have, and it didn't happen for 4 years. And October 7th would have never happened either. That's the attack on Israel. That would have never happened. So sad, a lot of things wouldn't have happened, but it's so sad to see it. Now, I think that there's a good chance we can get this done. I believe Putin wants to do it. Now, if I thought Putin didn't want me,
Let's hold this off, because this is a 6-hour speech, right? But a lot of people have been speaking out about this, you know, trying to be informed. Now we have to in order for us to really like break this down, we really got to go and see what's going on in other countries. Like what's going on over there in the Ukraine, what's going on over there in Moscow, right? You got Moscow rulers who are refusing certain variations of this. You know, you got a lot of people that are, you know, chiming in on this, because this is so many countries so many countries is around this whole situation, right? Putin said, you know, they say that Putin has agreed to the Trilateral, right? So Putin agreed to the meeting. Now, what is taking place now is saying, like, they might say Trump don't have to be there. You know what I mean? Trump's trying to not be there now, right? So Trump's trying not to be there now with this whole situation, altercation, so on and so forth, right? He's trying not to be involved now. Allegedly. We gotta say allegedly.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Beyond that, the White House declining to share any more details about a potential bilateral meeting, and notably, nor the Kremlin nor
Hey, Craig, I ain't gonna lie. I just started keeping up with a lot of this stuff. I separate myself from a lot of the things that's going on in the world, because I know the world is one big stage. So 9 times out of 10, I separate myself from what's going on in the world. But in order for me to reach the people, right, in order to bring them into an understanding of the Aquarius sky, you got to remember, like, when you are trying to find that common ground, trying to bridge that gap to bring people into a higher vibrational frequency of oneself, you kind of venture into a lot of different things that are of the carnal mind. It's not saying that you participate with the carnal things. It's just saying that you are willing to find common ground in some of the things that you guys are interested in. One of the big things is what's going on in the world. A lot of people are in the mindset of Armageddon, or, you know, the end times, or the return of. So we're going to hold a big conversation about that tomorrow. I got some other content creators that's going to come along and, you know, bring in some info on that conversation. So we're going to talk about the end times and the apocalypse tomorrow. But I also want to keep people informed on this right here, because this reshapes the world. If no matter how we want to look at it, this reshapes the world, right? You have what's going on in Iran, you have what's going on in the Ukraine, and whatever agreement comes out of this, it does reshape the world. If the idea is to get the ball rolling in Ukraine, to get a new seat, to get a new person in the seat, see, they can't have an election right now because it's war times over there. But if there's a lot of espionage going on, if there's a lot of interference going on with voting and putting the right people in the seat, then right now the Ukrainian president is fighting for the people, right? He's saying we want the 20,000 children back. He's saying this, that, and the third, right? And then you have, yeah, you see Putin speaking perfect English. What the fuck is going on in this world? I didn't know all these people study English like that to where as though they can come over and hold these whole conversations with, you know, perfect articulation and shit. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about that, you know, later. But it seems like there's a lot of figureheads. It seems like there's a lot of, what is it? Like, I don't know, NPCs. I don't think these people are real anymore, man. I'm honestly thinking like a bunch of people are clones and a bunch of people are just put in place. At this point, you know, at this point in our observation of this plane of existence, we have come to the realization that what you think you see is not really happening, right? So however we're painting this reality to be, it's not really happening, right? Because all of these people are put in place. These people are figureheads. These people are, right? When you have PRs, when you're analyzing the public, you give the public what they want, right? Supply and demand. They can't give us outside of anything than what we want, right? So because they analyze the minds of the multitude, they know that a lot of us are looking for hope. We're looking for hope. We're looking for some type of direction towards peace, right? Some people have already given up, and then the ones who didn't give up, they already turned to the dark side, right? So however we're looking at this, this is happening around us. This is happening. So we have to be mindful of actually what is taking place around us because the world is changing as we know it. All right. So if you like change, put that one in the comment section. Listen, make sure y'all put y'all notifications on. We're going to have so many great conversations over here. I don't think you want to miss it. Like I said, we are reaching out to other content creators to try to see if we can get their take on some of this stuff. It would seem like a lot of the things that conspiracy theorists were talking about are actually more relevant now in this time than anything. So it would seem like a lot of the conspiracy theories are, you know, the conspiracy theorists, they're having the I told you so moments right now, right? So a lot of the people who did the conspiracy theories, aliens in our ocean, the Grand Canyon being 80% uninhabitable, so on and so forth. So all of those different people seem to, they can have an I told you so moment right now because this shit is seeming more so like their reality than the reality of the carnal minded. One's in the chat. One's in the chat. Do you think conspiracy theories is coming, you know?
Yeah, of course, I mean, there's still a lot of questions. Remember when we went into the meeting yesterday and we were covering from every angle, we were told by European leaders and by President Trump that the goal was this trilateral meeting. That was what they wanted at the end of these negotiations. And instead, they came out saying there was going to be this bilateral meeting. And I asked Caroline a specific question or specific questions about where this idea came from and whether or not Putin had agreed. Take a listen. Clarification on something you said earlier about Putin agreeing to the meeting. The Kremlin seemed to indicate that Putin did not firmly agree to a bilateral. Did he agree to have a sit down with just Zelensky on the phone?
I can assure you that the United States government and the Trump administration is working with both Russia and Ukraine to make that bilateral happen as we speak.
Bilateral.
Now, of course, you might notice that
What happened to the trilateral?
Answer on her part, but shortly afterwards, another reporter followed up on my question and asked specifically, we understand that you're working with both governments, but has Putin agreed? And Caroline Levitt said he has, which is certainly news because, as you said, the Kremlin was being very iffy on whether or not he would actually do this.
As President Trump met with Ukrainian President Zelensky and European leaders at the White House.
See okay, so the bilateral meeting has to take place before the trilateral meeting, right? The trilateral meeting is to make sure certain security measures in place, right? The bilateral meeting has to take place first to make sure that Ukraine and Russia has some type of agreement, right? So the bilateral meeting will have to take place first to say that they are willing to sit down, right? The trilateral meeting, right? This is where the NATO comes in. This is where the troops come in. This is where the agreement with America comes in as far as our air support or whatever it is that we're supplying, right? This is where all that comes in at the trilateral. Before we can get to the trilateral meeting, a bilateral meeting has to take place first, okay? A bilateral would have to take place to say that they have come to some type of agreement. The trilateral meeting is for the security measures, right? They want to make sure that these security measures are there, through Article 5, right? So through Article 5, that's where the trilateral meeting would come in. Who's going to do what and who's going to be required to do what as far as NATO support, American support, and other European, country support, right? So that's where the trilateral comes in. The bilateral would have to take place first. So right now, we are on the bilateral part of this, right? The bilateral will have to take place. Now, if the bilateral goes well, then maybe you don't need a trilateral. But in this sense, Zukinski is asking for the trilateral for the security measures, saying that, Russia, Putin already broke 25 times his signature, right? So he's asking for the trilateral meeting to make sure the security measures. And that's where NATO and some of these other European leaders come in, so on and so forth. So we got to get through a bilateral before we can get to a trilateral.
Since the end of July, the Ukrainian Air Force said Moscow launched 270 drones and 10 missiles overnight. 8 people were killed, 54 were wounded across the country. Meantime, Ukraine says it struck 2 Russian ammunition depots in the occupied Luhansk region. Ukraine's security service says it used long-range drones to hit the ammunition warehouses on an important railway line.
A lot of y'all might be thinking, what does this have to do with anything? Okay, so we have the Iran situation going on, right? Now, this could have a closing out effect on both parts, right? Because here you say Russia get a victory in the Iran war, right? Allegedly, because they're going to get land, the maps is going to change, whatever the case may be. But is Russia going to give up the victory in the Iraq situation, right? Because that's what's on the table too. If Trump can open up the door in agreements for this, then it's not that far down the line before they get some type of agreement on the other situation. You get what I'm saying? So right now, how we're looking at this, it's like this could open up the door for other topics, other agreements. But at the same time, this is dangerous. This is very dangerous. You hear all the money that's on the table. We're talking about $350 billion, right? In which case, at the time, Ukraine didn't have anything to pay for this, but now they have stuff to pay for this, right? This is going to be a nice 2 weeks, crazy 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks is going to be crazy. We need to stay up on this. We need to stay, informed. Replay Gang, shout out to Replay Gang. Appreciate you guys for, the replays and, so on and so forth. Everybody that's sharing the live, hitting the like button. Appreciate you guys for pushing it into the algorithm and allowing, a space to talk about some of the more important things in the world. And listen, well, in order for him to stay in office, he would have to have it continue in order for him to stay in office. If they do come to some type of peace, the next election, Zukinski is not going to be there. I guarantee you they are working on, putting a figurehead there. They already got the candidate in place. And they're just waiting for elections to open back up in Ukraine. That's it. They're waiting for elections to open back up in Ukraine, and
used to supply ammunition from Russia to the front line. With us now to talk about these latest developments is Democratic Congressman Adam Smith of Washington State. He's the ranking member on the Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. You spoke before yesterday's meeting at the White House with Zelensky and all these European leaders about how you wanted the president to show strong support for Ukraine. We heard European leaders applauding Trump's offer to back security guarantees against any future Russian aggression. What else do you think President Trump needs to do, in your eyes, to show support for Ukraine?
Certainly. Well, the meeting yesterday could have been worse. It was kind of neutral. It wasn't the disaster that the meeting with Putin was. But look, President Trump can just clearly state Ukraine is a sovereign democratic nation, and we are going to work with our partners and allies to preserve that. We will arm and equip them so that they can push back against Russia. He will make that 100% clear that Russia's war on Ukraine was wrong. It was caused by Putin and Russia, period, full stop. And then second, he can actually carry through on some of the threats around sanctions, to put the pressure on Russia and Putin. And that's the whole problem with the way Trump has approached it.
You cannot put sanctions on Russia and Putin, because Russia and Putin Russia is already at damn near max sanctions. Like, they already, why do you think cigar prices are so high now? Why do you think, certain cigars has gone up, since the Ukraine, war and so on and so forth? Like, they're already at, max when it comes to sanctions, if you ask me, So I don't know how much more we can sanction them. Like concessions, maybe, sanctions.
He's put all the pressure on Zelensky in Ukraine and taken the pressure off of Putin. And it was, I think, about a month ago that Trump expressed the surprise, oh gosh, it looks like Putin might not really want peace. No, he doesn't want peace. He wants Ukraine. He will only choose peace if we can make it clear that he won't get Ukraine. And President Trump and his administration have been far from clear that they understand that central point. Now, yesterday was better. I had the conversation, talked about security guarantees for Ukraine. The Trump administration has a long way to go in terms of being strong and clear about resisting Putin's effort to take over Ukraine.
I want to zero in on something you said, Congressman, because I hear just skepticism, outright skepticism, that Putin actually wants peace. So do you think that this is all just a ruse to gain more time?
Absolutely. I mean, look, Putin was happy that Trump came into the White House, and he saw it as an opportunity based on a number of things that Trump has said before. Look, the reasons behind why Trump
research everything
he's taken are really complicated.
Listen to me.
The 2017.
Listen to me. You research everything. You have to do your own research. You have to do your own research. Look, looking into this, I see what everyone has to gain. America, large trading deals with this, right? We don't have the factories to support material trade, carpets, whatever. We don't have a bunch of factories like that. So what do America have that they can trade? Defense. This is where our Department of Defense comes in big and scores big for us, right? Because we are selling our defense now, right? And we're putting it in the trades, right? So this could change the trading debt and open up the door for some type of deficit to take place with China, possibly in the future. Now, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of things, and that's why I say, follow the money. Don't listen to what they're saying. You can hear what they're saying till you blue in the face. You can make it, they're going to make it seem like they care about the kids. They're going to make it seem like they care about the people. Really, population control is in order, right? There's too many older people, not enough younger people to actually accumulate for the deficit on Medicaid, right? Not enough young people signing up for Medicaid, too many older people on it, right? So they have to do something for this, population. Remember, the planet allegedly is only supposed to hold 5 billion. We are at 9 billion people pushing 10 billion, right? We are looking at this all wrong. You think they're for the people, they are not. So when you're looking at this war, you have to look at the depths of what's actually taking place. Follow the money. Follow the money. One's in the chat if you agree. Follow the money.
The 2016 effort, of Russia to interfere in the election and all of that. But what Putin saw was someone who wasn't going to stand up to him and give him that opening, and also undermining the coalition. Ukraine's bravery and courage and tenacity has been a huge part of why they've survived, but also the 53-nation coalition that was put together to help them defend themselves has been a huge part of it. And the degree to which Putin could undermine that coalition and Trump's criticisms of our European allies, his ambivalence about NATO, that's all music to Putin's ears because it undermines the ability of Ukraine to defend itself. So I think that's where Putin's going. Look, the formulation has been simple from the start.
Hey, we might have to do a thing on that. Everything that took place when the banking was implemented. Federal Reserve in 1913.
So you think that any sort of
the Titanic in 1912. The bank, Federal Reserve, JP Morgan. If you're going to get into the 1918 Tax Act, you can't get outside of infiltration of the banking system because that's where the Babylonian money came in.
Also some kind of Article 5-like agreement that there would be a response with force if Russia were to restart aggression after some kind of peace deal. Do you think that's all just bunk?
I don't fully understand what you mean by that, but no, I don't.
I don't think to clarify. Well, go ahead. You don't think that those sort of details are necessary?
Oh, they're important, but what really has been helpful to Ukraine is the fact that we are going to arm them, train them, and support them. I don't think it's necessary to have NATO troops on the ground in Ukraine. I don't think it's necessary for Ukraine to join NATO. I know that's a controversial position, but if we give them the level of support that we've given them over the course of the last, 3+ years, and if our European partners and allies do, economic and military, if we show them that we're going to give them that level of support and we're not walking away from it, as Trump has threatened to do in the past, that's what's important. The details I will leave to people more knowledgeable than me. Maybe a domestic force is part of it. Whatever it is, it has to make Ukraine a hard enough target that Putin doesn't think that he can take it. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that, but we have to focus on that instead of focusing, as Trump has, on various different arguments for why the war is really Ukraine's fault, and while Putin has legitimate security interests, he has no legitimate security interests. Ukraine does not threaten Russia. It is the other way around. And we have to make that clear. So the details can be worked out. But no, that's not bunk. That's an important part of the conversation.
The question I was getting at is if it's clear to you and to other observers that have raised similar points that Vladimir Putin is not serious about this and that this is just kind of a distraction to further kick the can down the road, potentially to sign some agreement, but then to restart fighting at a later date, then why are European leaders not saying that directly to President Trump? Why are they sort of backing what they see as a potential path to peace right now?
Yeah.
No, you're right.
I have said that to President.
Listen, CNN is bad, right? CNN is a bad look, right? But here's the thing. In order for us to get the big picture, we have to get the pieces that's coming out everywhere, right? If we look at this, the media, if we look at Medusa's head, then yes, we're going to say that we can be trapped in this, right? Media, Medusa's head, so on and so forth, right? It's been used since the Greek era. But we're putting it all together, right? That's what we're doing. We're putting it all together. So we want to make sure that we get a grand understanding of all of it. Not just some of it, all of it.
Nothing has been decided at this time. But White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Putin has indeed agreed.
Meeting
with President Putin. I had a very successful meeting with President Zelensky, and now I thought it would be better if they met without me, just to see. I want to see what goes on. You know, they had a hard relationship, very bad relationship, and now we'll see how they do. And if necessary, and it probably would be, but if necessary, I'll go and I'll probably be able to get it closed.
The Kremlin making clear that this meeting is not imminent. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is saying that any potential meeting between these two leaders must be prepared, quote, with the utmost care. And the more time this takes, John, the better it is for Russia. It gives them the opportunity to shore up control of some of those occupied areas and continue to advance on the battlefield. And we are seeing that as Russia continues with intensive airstrikes on Ukraine. President Zelensky responding overnight. He said, quote, all of these are demonstrative strikes that only confirm the need to put pressure on Moscow, the need to
And
impose
what, like,
sanctions
are
and
we
terrorist-
going to take out the the kids?
Bloomberg understands that Russia says it will only agree to security guarantees for Ukraine that give Moscow an effective veto over any future effort to defend Kyiv. For more, Tony Halpin, who leads our Russia economy and government coverage, joins me now. Tony, how can you have a security guarantee for Ukraine that Moscow might veto if Moscow is the aggressor?
Yes, this is one of the many unanswered questions that are being hashed out at the moment, because essentially the idea of security guarantees for Ukraine is, as you say, Tom, against Russia. If Russia wants some say in that, then there's some question mark over whether it amounts to any kind of security for Ukraine. Europeans are still trying to work out some sort of idea around something called a NATO light assurance, which would give Ukraine some sort of military assistance and military commitment if it were to be attacked again. But the details there are still very vague, and there's a lot of discussion to be had, I think.
What do we understand from listening to the Russian foreign minister with so much experience and so much time in the field, Mr. Lavrov, about Russia's current position, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, essentially Russia is standing firm on what it wants, partly because it sees that this has been pretty successful so far. If you recall, on Friday's summit, President Trump went quite a long way towards the Russian position, basically accepting that Russia needs to get some Ukrainian territory as part of any settlement, basically accepting that there doesn't need to be a ceasefire before talks begin, and essentially that allows also the US to hold off from applying further sanctions. So Russia sees all of this, and it decides that actually playing hardball produces results, and this is the kind of thing that we end up with, that Russia's saying, well, fine, you want to talk about security guarantees, here's what we want from it, you better give it to us.
What about this much-touted meeting between Putin and Zelensky? What have the Russians been saying in terms of their potential willingness or not to have that meeting?
Yeah, they're somewhat lukewarm on this. They have committed, publicly at least, to increasing the level of official taking part in the direct talks between Ukraine and Russia from the current fairly low level on the Russian side. But that's very far from committing to Putin sitting down at the table with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky. The Kremlin's position has always been essentially that Putin will sit down with Zelensky at some point, but that will only be if there's an agreement on the table for them to sign, and both sides are still very far away from that. So it looks like Russia's not very interested.
So when you're looking at this map, you can see the area that Russia, claims, so on and so forth, right? So this is the area right here. They found a way in through here, right? Now, all of these have refineries and stuff, right? So that's what they're saying. A lot of the areas, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is saying was not occupied, so on and so forth. So it was easily for them to occupy that area. And as you can see, the blue area is the area that Russia claims but does not control, right? That's the blue areas. Now, this is a major part of the argument, right? Because this is going to determine whether Russia gets more resources, right? They say that Russia allegedly, supposedly, with everything that they're working on, in order to stay the power that they are overexerting a lot of the resources. You get what I'm saying? So this is what, this is what a lot of the argument is over. Minerals, so on and so forth. And right now, they are reshaping this map to fit whatever it is that's going on. So they're reshaping this to appease both parties. Yes, it was all USSR, and maybe that's Russia's whole thing, to get everything back to how it used to be. I don't know. We can't say what's in the minds of someone else. Like Cat Williams said, no one knows why a liar lies, right? So we can't dig into, all of that, what was, what wasn't. I mean, if that's the case, then we'll have to go all the way back to, the Aborigines, or probably, the Asiatic black man, or whoever it is that, when you travel back all of these centuries, whoever it originally belonged to, right? Because if you look at it, it wasn't until the 1600s that Caucasian was created. So however far you want to go back, I think we need to just let history be history and focus on the future endeavors, peace, prosperity, trying to get along, unity, how it is that we can best help each other to love each other better, right? I think that's what we can focus on, because if we focus on the past, it's going to lead us down a lot of different loopholes, right? When you find out that the people who claiming the land don't originally own the land, then what you do, right? Or do you just go back to a history that is appeasing to thyself, right? Because that's what this is all about, right? One trying to get back to a history that is satisfying to them, because every history has loopholes, and every history has, different variations of things that are like, oh, I didn't know that. There was a time that Africa evaded Italy and created the Sicilians, right? We have a transatlantic trade, but no one talks about the Pacific trade, right? Everyone talks about, this form of slavery as opposed to the old history of slavery. Nobody wants to go back to the old history of slavery. There was a lot of pictures that was altered in the history of this world, right? There was some identity thefts that went on. There's a whole false bloodline through Cleopatra and Julius Caesar, allegedly, supposedly. There's a Venus bloodline, which is a false bloodline, right? So, all of this plays a factor. All of this stuff plays a factor. You get what I'm saying? So it really depends on how you looking at it, right? That's what it really depends on. It really depends on how you look at it. Do I got another stand for this? Hold on, let me see if I can get another stand for this other phone. So I can't put a backdrop up. I think I put it in the box. So then I have one. So yeah, it depends on how you look at this. That really, you know, I remember, right? It was like 30 years ago. I read that book. So yeah, however you looking at this, you gotta look at it for the
Enthusiastic
understanding
about a
of.
bilateral summit, whatever it is that President Trump says was agreed. So far, at least publicly, the Kremlin isn't playing ball there.
So this could be an illusion. This could be an illusion of peace. And like I said, there's so many more implications around this, YouTube. There's so much more implications around this whole thing. You know, the ultimate plan was always to, you know, play this arms dealer. You know, right now Trump is looking like, you know, the man of what's that one movie? War Dogs, War Gods, God of Wars, or something like that. Because, you know, the way he's going around selling the defense of America, I mean, yes, it is business as usual. Hold on, that sound might be that sound might be copyrighted. And we ain't gonna play that sound. I don't know what that sound is. We're gonna try to get the more recent stuff. That's the best thing to do, is try to get the more recent stuff, because there's so many people like talking about it, and you know, but so far, according to what came out yesterday, Putin has agreed to the meeting, right? So far, Putin has agreed to the meeting, and we're gonna see how that goes. So far, he agreed to it. I gotta get a stand for this one, this other phone. Make sure y'all come over to
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have the president of Ukraine with us. We've had a lot of good discussions, a lot of good talks, and I think progress is being made, very substantial progress in many ways. We had a good meeting, as you know, just a short while
with
ago
Nicolas
with
Cage,
the
yeah.
President of Russia. And I think there's a possibility that something could come out of it, and today's meeting is very important.
I mean, he talking $350 billion in a NATO agreement, another agreement with other European leaders.
And thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much.
So he pretty much like sold all of them like training and you know what I mean? Training and weapons, and he's like, yes, don't worry about it, we got you, we gonna look out.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you very much for your efforts. Personally,
To find an answer to, and we'll get this settled. I've just had the honor of being with President Zelensky. And all
See,
of
this was the
uh,
table that
discussions
tell.
We've covered a lot of territory.
This was a telling table right here. This was a very telling table right here. All of these, oh shit, it's probably staticking for y'all. Damn, let me take that out so it can stop staticking. All right, it should be better for y'all. I'm sorry, I forgot that I was charging it. So right here, right, this is a telling table, right? All of them told on themselves, right? All of them let the American people and whoever else analyze this, just how fearful they are of Putin, right? Just how much they need America defense or air support or whatever, you know, training classes we sold them, whatever it is that we sold them, right? All of them are showing that they need that, right? They're telling, all of them are telling at this table. Let's break it down. You know, as they talk, let's break it down, all the things that they're telling.
And I spoke indirectly with.
You think they really, oh,
President
Ukraine, they really
President
worried about
right after
Ukraine.
this
As
meeting.
soon as this happened, they're like, we're worried about us. Finland's worried about Finland. That's why, look, you see who's not at the table? The Baltics. You see who's not at the table? The Poland, right? They're not at the table. These people worry too, right? That's why the reporters was asking, how do you think how do you think the Polands feel about this? How do you think, and what do you think the Baltics' response are going to be? So on and so forth. That's why they said this, Yeah, if you're new to the family, man, make sure y'all subscribe to the page. Hit the three arrows at the top. Hit the three dots at the top of your screen, and make sure that you get that like. Hit that thumbs up button. Do the things that YouTube allow you to do for free. Let's build. Or hit that arrow button at the bottom of your screen. Hit that arrow button at the bottom of your screen. Copy the link or share it with somebody. I know it's kind of early. You probably ain't got nobody to share it with this early, but, just copy the link.
General, now he's the NATO Secretary General. Thank you very much for Prime Minister Starmer of the United Kingdom, a friend and my friend, and doing really well. And people like him a lot. Everyone knows President Macron of France, who's been with me from the beginning. Were the first people I met. A foreign dignitary, and I like him from day one.
For buying his suit.
Doing really well, and people like him a lot. We all like him. Everyone knows President Macron of France, who's been with me from the beginning.
This trip around, they brought backup.
He's a foreign dignitary, and I liked him from day one.
My cousin Vinny's suit.
And I like him even more now. That's pretty good. That's unusual. That's a pretty unusual thing. Prime Minister Meloni of Italy, who's a really great leader and an inspiration over there. She's served now, even though she's a very young person, she's served there for a long period of time relative to others. They don't last very long. You've lasted a long time. You're going to be there a long time. Chancellor Merz of Germany, who is a very strong person and a very strong leader and very highly respected in Germany. And he's my friend, and it's an honor to have him as my friend. Thank you very much. Very good. You look great with your tan.
Thank you for being my friend. Thank you. Trump is so simple. Thank you for being my friend.
Finland, and he's somebody that, where are we here?
Look.
You look better than I've ever seen you look.
He didn't even know. How do somebody that you didn't even know who you were looking for? He said, President of Finland is here. Where are you? We're looking around at the table and then going to say, you look better than I ever seen you look. You couldn't even find him. You couldn't even find him at the table. You look better than I always seen you look.
But you've done a great job.
Couldn't even find him at the table. Look. Watch. He
President
can't even find them.
of Finland, and he's somebody that, where are we here?
Look, where is he? Where is he? Right here.
You look better than I've ever seen you look.
Shut up.
But you've done a great job, and we wanted to have you here because you're somebody that we all respect. And you've had a lot to do with the success, I think, and the potential success. And thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Crazy work.
And the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who is somebody that we just made a big deal with all of those countries. I don't know. I think you might be more powerful than all these guys at this stage.
Look, see? Because you made a big deal with her, right? You just closed out a big deal with Ursula von der Leyen, right? So look, all of that, you follow the money. You follow the money. If you close out a big deal with her, then what does that mean? That means that she's trying to pay out for the American defense system that held off Russia for the Ukraine, right? All this was a demonstration of power, right? With the American support, with the American training, Ukraine was able to hold off Russia, right? Great accomplishments, right? So now all these other players, they also want their part of it. So, with the help of these other people, NATO, so on and so forth, Ukraine's able to pay for more training. The rest of them say, hey, we want that shit too. Whatever it is you did to help them, we want it too, right? Now, here's the problem with this. Opening up the doors with other European parties is going to kind of be a slap in the face to India. I don't know what type of agreement we have with India, but India is not taking this well, right? Trump's looking like a backslider right now, right? I don't know if you guys know about that.
Well, I don't know. But we had a great negotiation, and you're respected all over the world. So I want to thank you very much for being here. It's a great honor to have you. The Alaska Summit reinforced my belief that while difficult, peace is within reach, and I believe that in a very significant step, President Putin agreed that Russia would accept.
Yo, hold on. Somebody's Discord is rocking. Somebody's Discord is cooking me right now. Who's Discord? Killer? What the hell y'all got going on? 6 o'clock in the morning. Damn, why your Discord so active right now? That's how we gotta get our Discord. This Discord jumping right now. We gotta get our Discord like that. They Discord sound heavy right now. It sound like it's a party going on in they Discord. Damn. Huh? It's a party going on in the Discord. It sounds like it's a party going on in a Discord. We gotta get a Discord like that. Huh? Shit jumping in a Discord. Oh, this is one of the gaming Discords. They jumping over here at 6 o'clock in the morning. They jumping in the Discord. Hey, we gotta get our Discord like that, man. Hey, shout out to Killer and them over there on TikTok, man. They in the Discord. So that's that noise that you hear.
Security guarantees for Ukraine, and this is one of the key points that we need to consider, and we're going to be considering that at the table also, like who will do what, essentially. I'm optimistic that collectively we can reach an agreement that would deter any future aggression against Ukraine, and I actually think there won't be.
See, all this money that's moving around, you know they siphoning some of it. If you don't think they get in their hands.
I think that the European nations are going to take a lot of the burden. We're going to help them.
Pockets are getting
we're
fat.
Going to make it very secure. We also need to discuss the possible exchanges of territory, taking into consideration the current line of contact. That means the war zone, the war lines that are pretty obvious, very sad actually to look at them. And negotiating positions, President Putin, that can only be made by President Zelensky and by the people of Ukraine working also together in agreement with President Putin, and I just think that's very good things are going to come of it. So I hope we have a good meeting, and if we can have a good meeting, I'll set up a meeting with President Putin, and if you'd like, I'll go to that meeting. And not that I want to do that, but I will do that because we want to save a lot of people from dying. A lot of people are dying, and we got to save them. Got to save it. 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people sometimes a week. All of us would obviously prefer an immediate ceasefire while we work on a lasting peace, and maybe something like that could happen. As of this moment, it's not happening, but President Zelensky and President Putin can talk a little bit more about that. You know, in the 6 or so wars that we stopped, we haven't had a ceasefire, and so I don't know that it's necessary. You can do it through the war, but it would be, I like the ceasefire from another standpoint. You immediately stop the killing. But I believe a peace agreement at the end of all of this is something that's very attainable, and it can be done in the near future. With all of the wars that I got involved in, we only have this one left. Of course, as I walk out the door, there'll probably be a new one starting, and I'll get that stopped too. But I thought this was going to be one of the easier ones. It's actually one of the most difficult and very complex. The next step would be for a trilateral meeting, and that will be worked out. And I just look forward to working and having a great result. We're going to spend a lot of time today talking about, and we're really honored you guys came over. I mean, these are the heads of major countries, and respected all over Europe. And they speak for, largely, I think I should say, but pretty much for the other countries of Europe. And we will come to a resolution today, I think, on almost everything, including probably the security. And that's pretty much the story. I'd like to say, Mr. President, would you like to say something? You have the media. If you want, you could come over and you could stand, you could use mine, or you could just turn around, whichever you feel comfortable with.
Thank you so much. I can speak without microphone. Thank you so much. I think that we had a very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good.
And it really was the best one. Or sorry, maybe the best one will be in the future. But it was really good. And we spoke about very sensitive points. The first one is security guarantees, and we are very happy with President that all the leaders are here, and security in Ukraine depends on the United States and on you and on those leaders who are with us in our hearts. They have been online before yesterday, and etc. So a lot of countries on the side of Ukraine, our people, and all of us want to finish this war, stop Russia, stop this war. We spoke about it, and we will speak more about security guarantees. This is very important that the United States gives such strong signal and is ready for security guarantees. And second point, or maybe the first, the humanitarian direction, very important to exchange all the prisoners, and I think that
Trump wants to date his,
I was very thankful
I ain't repeating
to
that.
your wife again, Mr. President, for the letter about our adopted children, and I hope that really it can be a historic role for the people to bring kids back to the families and be happy. Get their families. Yes, this is so important, and I'm happy that we discussed it, this track with the President Trump, and I hope that we will find decisions. And then what is very important, that all the sensitive things, territorial, etc., we will discuss on the level of leaders during Trilateral meeting, and President Trump will try to organize such meeting, and he said that he will come or not come. Ukraine will be happy if you will participate.
I will be there.
Yeah, thank you. And I think this is very important. Yeah, so security guarantees, bring kids back, and all our people, not only warriors, first of all warriors, and all the civilians, journalists, a lot of people in prison. So we need that.
Now they did say like a lot of people was released. They did say that a lot of people was released, so on and so forth. So I did hear them say that. But in all retrospect, this whole thing, like, it just, like I said, you know, I looked into some stuff, and they seem to already have somebody lined up for the president's seat in Ukraine, right? So all they trying to do is open back up the doors for an election. You get what I'm saying? So all they open up the door, you know, they open back up the door for, you know, that election. They opened up the door for that, you know, for the election to continue, because right now they can't get on with an election over there, you know, with this. So they literally, you know, they literally have to figure out that first, right? They have to figure that out first, right? And you know, I told them it was gonna be official campaign.
Back and guarantees which will work for the years. We spoke about it, and I showed the president a lot of details on the battlefield, on the map. Thank you so much. Thank you for the map, by the way. It was great. I'm thinking how to take it back.
We'll get to it.
I think that we had a structure-specific meeting, and I'm very thankful to all the leaders who are here, and you helped a lot, and so we are happy that we have such big unity today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think you'll see that President Putin really would like to do something else. I think.
And that's why I say, like, this is about money. It's so much money moving around in the last, what they say, last 3 weeks.
Positive moves. I know there's over 1,000 prisoners, and I know they're going to release them. Maybe they're going to release them very soon, like immediately, which I think is great. But we will. We're going to set that up today after this meeting. So very good and great remarks. I appreciate it. Mark, as head of NATO, maybe you could say a few words, please.
Yes, I will be very brief. I really want to thank you, President of the United States, dear Donald, for the fact that you, as I said before, broke the deadlock, basically with President Putin by starting that dialogue. And I think it was in February that you had the first phone call, and from there we are now where we are today. And that is, I think, if we play this well, we could end this, and we have to end it. We have to stop the killing. We have to stop the destruction of Ukraine's infrastructure. It is a terrible war, so I'm really excited. And let's make the best out of today and make sure that from today onwards we get this thing to an end as soon as possible. I really want to thank you for your leadership, what you are doing for Volodymyr, but of course also all the European colleagues. It is really crucial. And the fact that you have said I'm willing to participate in the security guarantees is a big step. It's really a breakthrough, and it makes all the difference. So also thank you for that.
Well, NATO also has agreed from 2% to 5%, which is something that is a massive amount of money. And it's 2% that wasn't always paid to 5% that is paid. That's a big difference. And so we appreciate that. That was a great move. Thank you very much. Ursula, maybe on behalf of the Commission, you could say a couple of words.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a very important moment. Indeed, we are here, Europeans, as friends and allies. We had a fantastic NATO summit. Together, the two largest and biggest economies in the world. We had the largest trade deal ever agreed. And now we are here to work together with you on a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Stop the killing. This is really our common interest, stop the killing. And indeed, it's very good to hear that we're working on the security guarantees, Article 5 lies security guarantees, so important. But I want to thank you also that you mentioned the thousands of Ukrainian children that have been abducted. And as a mother and grandmother, every single child has to go back to its family. This should be one of our main priorities also in these negotiations, to make sure that the children come back to Ukraine, to their families.
Thank you, and we did. I was just thinking we're here for a different reason, but we just a couple of weeks ago made the largest trade deal in history. So that's a big thing, and congratulations. That's great. Thank you very much, Ursula. Mr. Chancellor from Germany. Very great leader.
Mr. President, Donald, many thanks for having us today. I think this is extremely helpful that we are meeting and hearing that the two of you are having such a good meeting today here in Washington. The next steps ahead are the more complicated. The path is open. You opened it last Friday. But now the way is open for complicated negotiations. And to be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire, the latest from the next meeting on. I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that and let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations from next step on. So I would like to emphasize this aspect and would like to see a ceasefire from the next meeting, which should be a trilateral meeting wherever it takes place.
Well, we're going to let the president go over and talk to the president, and we'll see how that works out.
I knew they was gonna try it. Hey, so look, so there's a lot. I mean, the European leaders. That's why I say, like, you got to read their body language with this whole conversation. They are worried about their country. They're worried about their people. They trying to get the funds for their people. You know what I mean? Yeah, the world is one big stage. The world is really one big stage, because ain't no way. Ain't no way. You know what I mean? That's why I say the world is one big stage, because there's no possible way you can have, you know, these people at the table. They're like, you know, we came together, you know, we've been at deadlock with Putin. Thank you, Trump, for, you know what I mean? And Trump sitting there reading off the paper. He don't even know who face to find. He didn't even study this shit enough to know who face to look at. Everybody's looking at each other awkwardly, really. If you read the body language, you know, there's a lot of awkward, you know, body language, you know, people not really looking at each other's face. You see them keep looking at other faces that is familiar when they're talking, and so on and so forth, right? So you have this notion. Yeah. So but there was a lot of deals that was closed. There was a lot of agreements being made. Remember, the trilateral meeting is for the security measures. If they're going to place any security measures under Article, you know, 5, however you want to look at this. So this is big. It's a big deal. But when you're looking at this, you also have what's in place too. You also have other things that's in place with this, right? You also have a lot of other things that's in place with this whole storyline. You know, there's a lot of other things that's in place with this. Because, like, you got to think, their election is on pause right now. So there's to be an election that's going to take place in the Ukraine, right? If Trump signs this agreement, you know, and then the next step, you know, Zelensky is not in office, right? If they have an election, what if they get Zelensky out of office and the next president decide to, you know, revoke? Right? Something. This, I'm telling you, that's why I keep on saying the world is one big stage. That's why I keep on, you know, reminding people that the world is one big stage. That's why I keep on reminding people that the world is one big stage. You know?
I will say, and again, I say it, in the 6 wars that I've settled, I haven't had a ceasefire. We just got into negotiations, and one of the wars was, as you know, in the Congo was 31 years long. Another one that we'll see how that works out, and if we can do that, I will say, and again, I say it, in the 6 wars that I've settled, I haven't had a ceasefire. We just got into negotiations, and one of the wars was, as you know, in the Congo was 30 years, 31 years long.
Repeat it again.
Another one that we settled last week with 2 great countries was 35 years going on, and we had no ceasefire. So if we can do the ceasefire, great. And if we don't do a ceasefire, because many other points were given to us, many points were given to us, great points. Please, Georgia, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Donald, Mr. President, for hosting us today in this important meeting. And I think it is an important day, a new phase, after 3 years and a half that we didn't see any kind of sign from the Russian side that there was a will.
Tap the screen if you're just coming
something
in.
is changing, something has changed, thanks to you. Thanks also to the stalling in the battlefield.
He didn't stop 6
which
wars.
was achieved with
They say he
the
did. They say it was 6.
and with the unity that we all provided to Ukraine. And the reason why I mention it is that we also have to remind that if we want to reach peace and if we want to guarantee justice, we have to do it united. So that's why it's a very good day, the one we are in. You can obviously count on Italy as it was from the beginning. We are on the side of Ukraine, and we do absolutely support your efforts towards peace. We will talk about many important topics. The first one is security guarantees, how to be sure that
That guy, appreciate the
won't
lights.
happen again, which is the precondition of every kind of peace. I'm happy that we will discuss about that. I'm happy that we will begin from a proposal, which is the, let's say, Article 5 model, which was Italian at the beginning. So we are always ready to bring our proposals for peace, for dialogue. It's something we have to build together to guarantee peace and to defend the security of our nation. So thank you, Mr. President, for hosting us.
Thank you very much. Emmanuel.
Thank you, Mr. President, for organizing this meeting and for your commitment. And everything was said, but I just have to say here, everybody around this table is in favor of peace. And we will.
Why? Why would you have to say that? We know. That's why y'all come here today.
Have a peace which is
You say Trump played himself? How?
This is why the idea of a trilateral meeting is very important, because this is the only way to fix it. And by the way, I think as a follow-up, we will need probably a quadrilateral meeting, because when we speak about security guarantees, we speak about the whole security of the European continent. And this is why we are all united here with Ukraine on this matter.
This dude's a
In
liar.
order to organize such a trilateral meeting, your idea to ask for a truce, or ceasefire, at least to stop the killings, as we discussed, is a necessity. And
This dude's a liar.
This idea.
This dude's not to be trusted.
Long-term peace for Ukraine and for the whole continent, we do need security guarantees. And the first one is clearly a credible Ukrainian army for the years and decades to come. And the second one is our own commitment, all of us. And we worked very hard in the past few months amongst the coalition of
Yeah, this dude is.
different pillars of security guarantees. And
He don't sound right to me.
you can be sure that Europeans are very lucid about the fact that they have their fair share in these security guarantees for Ukraine, but their own security is clearly at stake in this situation. So you can count on us, as we can count on you, in order to deliver this promised peace for both Ukraine and Europe. Thank you.
See? Emmanuel is a snake. That's a snake. He is a snake. He sat there and said, we're all for peace. We're all for this, so on and so forth. And, the goal is this. And, as long as you come through on your part, we'll be willing to do excess. This dude, let's not get it twisted. A lot of them are, out to make sure that their country get the best that they can get out of this whole thing. And security, right? This is why the security measures are being, put in place, right? Or they want to put in place, right? But they want themselves to be covered under these said security measures too. Implementing that they will also help with variations of things, but you know they want to be included. Oh, James, welcome back, James. Welcome back, James. How are you? How are you, James? Look, pretty soon we're going to pull some people up from TikTok and see what they got to think about this, you know, and let them chime in on this, you know, when we pull them up from TikTok. So we might pull some people up from TikTok and let them chime in on some of this stuff. If Europe was under threat, we would move. If Europe was under threat, we would move? What? You mean like the whole people would move, or you would make a move? I don't know what you're saying right there.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you for hosting us here. Can I start where Emmanuel started? We all want peace. The war in Ukraine has had a huge impact, particularly on the Ukrainians who fall in front of it. But it's also had a
I gotta make sure 7's up in school.
The United Kingdom is not a family or community. It hasn't been affected. And when we talk about security, we're talking about security not just of Ukraine, we're talking about security of Europe and the United Kingdom as well, which is why this is such an important issue. I think this is such an important meeting. As a group, I think we've had a discussion on the phone a number of times, Mr. President, but be able now to be around the table to take it forward. And I really feel that we can, I think, with the right approach this afternoon, make real progress, particularly on the security guarantees, and your indication of security guarantees of some sort of Article 5 style guarantees fits with what we've been doing for Coalition Willing, which we started some months ago, bringing countries together and showing that we were prepared to step up to the plate when it came to security. With you coming alongside, the US alongside what we've already developed, I think we could take a really important step forward today, a historic step actually, to come out of this meeting in terms of security for Ukraine and security in Europe. I also feel that we can make real progress towards a just and lasting outcome. Obviously that has to involve Ukraine. The Trilateral meeting seems the sensible next step, so thank you for being prepared to take that forward.
Yeah, tap the screen, tap the screen.
Ensure that
Kingdom, what's good with you?
progress out of this meeting, both security guarantees and some sort of progress on Trilateral.
Everybody want these security guarantees.
Some of the difficult issues to a head, I think today will be seen as a very important day in recent years. In relation to a conflict which has gone on for 3 and a bit years, and so far nobody's been able to bring it to this point, so thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much, and you know, it's very interesting because this is the first for the White House. You can't say that very often. We've seen a lot over the years, since 1800, 1799, to be almost exact. But this is the first where we've had so many prime ministers, presidents, the heads of European nations. And by the way, Alex, I'd like you to say a couple of words too. You're a young, powerful man. Before I finish up, I want you to say a couple of words. Go ahead.
I'll take the notion of youth back to my wife and try to convince her. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think in the past 2 weeks we've probably had more progress in ending this war than we have in the past 3.5 years. And I think the fact that we're around this table today is very much symbolic in the sense that it's Team Europe and Team United States helping Ukraine. And the progress that we're looking out of this meeting is about security guarantees, which are a big part of this. And then, of course, moving towards a process for the Trilateral meeting with you and President Putin and President Zelensky. Some of the international media might wonder, why is the President of Finland here? I think the reason is probably that we might come from a small country, but we have a long border with Russia, over 800 miles. And we, of course, have our own historical experience with Russia from World War II, the Winter War and the War of Continuation. And if I look at the silver lining of where we stand right now, we found a solution in 1944, and I'm sure that we'll be able to find a solution in 2025 to end Russia's war of aggression and find and get a lasting.
Is that what Finland is calling this, the war of aggression?
That's why we're here.
Thank you, Alex, very much. Good job. So
Good
we're
job,
gonna be
good job.
here for a
Everybody
while,
did great.
And we're gonna discuss some of
That's
the issues.
this is poppycock, man. It's like everybody did great. Good job, Alex. Good job. You did great. You did great. You spoke well. You spoke well, right? Everybody's speaking well to one another. This is excellent. This is good. The media will eat this up.
To find an answer to.
Is that what they're saying? Like, so they're playing us. You know what I mean?
Are not serious. To ask for somebody's opinion regarding the substance, go to Zelensky. He is happy to talk to anybody through media, even to President Trump. He presents his claims. We
Well, he said he
are
hasn't
serious.
received a
We
formal
are serious
proposal, so I
people, and
wondered if you had.
we consider serious proposals. We make serious proposals, and this is a process which is not supposed to be public until the end of it.
Okay, so no deal is imminent.
I didn't say this. Now I understand, by the way, why you wanted to get brief answers to your questions. You want some slogans to be in the
No, the President of the
broadcast.
United States said there was a deal with Russia, so I wanted to ask Russia if there is a deal with the United States.
Well,
So, I just want to be clear.
we made our comments on this statement. The negotiations continue, and until the end of the negotiations, we cannot disclose what it is about.
Okay. The National Security
Yeah,
Advisor
see, they operate in secrecy.
said last month that
They
President
operate
Trump
in
asked
secrecy.
for thousands of Ukrainian children who were taken into Russia to be released now as part of what he called confidence building measures. What steps has Russia taken to meet Mr. Trump's request?
Look, long before the request coming from Washington, we have been addressing the issue of the fate of the kids who, during the conflict, found themselves outside their homes, outside their families. Most of these kids were attending what we call it, the place where people without parents are taken. Orphanage. And as soon as, and we announce whatever details we have about those kids, and as soon as the parents or other relevant relatives make themselves available, they're getting the kids back. This has been the process for the last almost 3 years between the ombudsman of Russia and Ukraine.
So there's no new release of thousands.
So Russia is saying that the kids have no parents or relatives that's claiming them. Most of these kids came from orphanages, so on and so forth. 20,000 kids, orphanages. I don't know. So this might explain why Russia is renaming the kids and trying to give them Russia citizenship or whatever it is that they're trying to give them. I don't know. What do you guys think? Who do you think telling the truth about this? Did they just snatch up kids, or did they save these kids that was in orphanages and so on and so forth? What do you guys think? Maybe their parents are no longer here, unalive, due to the, attacks and so on and so forth. They saying, why, what, I don't know.
WP, where the President of the United States is saying, Vladimir, stop. How do you convince the United States that Russia is actually serious about peace?
Well, confidence building measures have been plentiful in the last 10 years. I mentioned a deal in
The
February.
strike was overnight.
you want a brief answer, right? As I understand from your initial words. Or you want an answer which is explaining the situation. The proposal by President Trump on 30 days moratorium on the strikes against energy infrastructure was supported by President Putin and observed strictly. This was a confidence-building measure against the policy and action taken by Zelensky regime. As I said several hundred times, civilian energy infrastructure was struck. Another confidence-building measure was the proposal of President Trump and his team to resume the deal on Black Sea. And the delegations met in Istanbul, in Riyadh. The delegations exchanged the views how this can be implemented in practical terms, and the proposals made by Russia are being considered by the United States. There are many other examples about confidence-building measure, but if you believe that it's only Ukraine who is interested in confidence-building, I think a short answer would be this is an illusion.
Do you take President Trump at his word when he says if Russia is unable to make a deal on ending the bloodshed in Ukraine, he'll put secondary tariffs, I think he means sanctions there, on oil coming out of Russia? Or do you think that at this point, the relationship between Russia and America has been rebuilt and that won't happen?
Well, I cannot comment on what you think President Trump meant when he said something.
What do you think he meant when he said secondary tariffs on oil coming out of Russia?
Well, we hear many things coming from President Trump. President Trump said that he's sick and tired of the situation in this settlement, especially yesterday when he commented the statements by Zelensky. And President Trump has his own proposals and has his own style in mentioning those proposals in his public speeches. We concentrate, as I said, on the real negotiations which President Trump supports and instructed his people to continue to engage in these negotiations. I'm sorry, the answer was a bit longish, but it's difficult to explain otherwise.
Because you can explain, not until negotiations is over with.
I ask about the threat of sanctions or secondary tariffs. Because you recently said in an interview, if you had to personally pick sides, you would keep the existing sanctions in place on Russia. You said you've restructured the economy to be self-sufficient, and there is a growing fear that, quote, cunning Americans will lift sanctions all of a sudden to flood our market with services and technologies. So if that's the case, why should the United States consider lifting sanctions at all?
Why do you ask me? You just quoted my statement.
And answered it.
And this statement is clear for me and clear to all those who read it. If you have questions to the American side, how they treat the situation, it is not the right address to raise it with me.
So you want to keep sanctions in place? Is that really the Russian position?
I don't want to re-explain what I explained, I think, in quite clear manner. And you quoted, I think,
right.
very close to the...
You quoted me exactly. You quoted
it was
me.
a bit longer than normally you prefer. I know.
Well, back in February,
Hey, he knows the game.
Demetria, who runs
He's into the word
has
game.
been active in the diplomacy with the United States.
Y'all hit
That's
that
something a
like
bit
button.
different. That's why I'm asking for
Hit that like
clarification,
button.
because he said there is the expectation that American companies would return to the Russian market in the second half of 2025.
Well, the president of Russia commented upon this situation. He said that we have nothing against American companies, but those companies who decided to leave their business in Russia might find that their place has been occupied already by Russian or other foreign investors. And in this case, we would not make any decisions which would discriminate those who came to invest in Russia instead of Americans. If American companies would like to come to a place which is not yet occupied, if they want to propose a project, a new project, on top of the previous business ties, of course we will look into this. And if we find balance of our interests, I think it would be only natural.
Is he talking about like refineries and stuff like that?
Well, what areas has the U.S. offered to lift sanctions on? Because it wouldn't be possible for many American companies to enter the Russian market right now under the existing sanctions.
It is up to them to decide.
So no offer?
You could listen. Hey James, if you want to talk, you can go over to the Discord, join the voice chat, and I can pull you up, or I could jump in there with you, and you could be heard, and you can talk. You know what I mean? But there's no way for me to send an invite through the measures of how I'm doing it now. You can go over to the Discord, come into the AOA voice channel. I'll enter the voice channel. Well, how else was you going to talk then? How else was you going to talk, James?
We are presidents of great countries.
Go over to TikTok on Energy of Atlas and come up on the page. You got TikTok? Let me guess, you ain't got that either, right?
Look, you quoted my statement, and you quoted it right. That's my position.
Okay. So when President Trump threatens new sanctions, that's not a concern.
You want me to call you on the phone, James?
Yes.
This was a brief answer. This was a brief answer, by the way.
You are being brief and direct on that part. I was asking on the sanctions for clarity and directness.
No, James. Do not put your number in the chat.
The battle space.
Do not put your number in the chat, James.
Analysts say about 18% of Ukrainian territory is under the control of Russian forces. U.S. intelligence says battlefield trends are in Russia's favor. So if that's the case, why should the U.S. believe Russia is serious about ending the war if everything is in your favor?
Well, we judge by the reaction of our American colleagues to what we tell them. And this is being done during negotiations. They're confidential as any serious negotiation. And they know our position, and as I quoted Marco Rubio, he publicly said that they better understand the Russian position and the reasons for what is going on. And he said that nobody in Washington lifted a finger to do the same, to try to understand Russia during the Biden administration. Mm-hmm. And this implies that the dialogue continues, that the dialogue is supported by the United States, and I reiterate that it is supported by the Russian Federation, and this dialogue continues.
So President Trump said he expects to meet soon with Vladimir Putin. What's an acceptable time and location? Why should they meet?
Look, the presidents are masters of their own destiny and of their own schedule. I heard President Trump say that he is planning to be somewhere mid-May, and that after that he would be suggesting some days. I cannot add anything else.
May?
He said he was asked about meeting with Vladimir Putin specifically in Saudi Arabia, and he said most likely not. That's in mid-May, but shortly thereafter.
You said the same thing as I.
Right.
So
well,
we
what are
read
you planning?
So we read the same newspapers and watch the same channels on TV.
Right, but I can't pick up the phone and call Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, like you can. What plans are you making for the two to meet?
Look,
negotiations cannot be discussed.
Listeners understand very well that it is not ethical for a foreign minister to prejudge, to presume what presidents might or might not discuss.
Thank you. Yeah, do not put that in the chat.
But you think it would be good for the two leaders to meet soon? Do you expect
We're always-
that that's
we're
what Envoy
always-
Witkoff is negotiating?
We're always in favor of meeting with people who are ready for a dialogue. President Putin repeated this thousands of times, and when we met in Riyadh, together with President Putin's foreign policy advisor Shakov, with Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz, the American colleagues clearly stated that the U.S. policy is based firmly on U.S. national interests. They understand that the Russian policy, led by President Putin, is also based on Russian national interests, and that it is the responsibility of great powers to make sure that whenever those national interests do not coincide, and this is in most of the cases, this difference should not be allowed to degenerate into confrontation. And that's what dialogue is for. But they also added that when the national interests of two countries or more countries coincide, it would be stupid to miss an opportunity to translate this coincidence into some material, mutually beneficial projects. And this is absolutely our position.
You know that President Trump is coming up on 100 days in office, and he has made clear his patience is wearing thin with the diplomacy here. Do you expect the U.S. and Russia to continue to talk after these potential peace talks fall apart? I mean, is the rebuilding of the relationship so significant now that you think it could withstand the peace talks in Ukraine falling apart?
First, Russia is always available for a dialogue, so you have to address the question to the American side. Second, you prejudge the current process by saying that eventual collapse of the talks. We concentrate on doing business, not on thinking, failures or victories about anything. Unless you concentrate on the facts, that's what we do. You cannot be serious about what we are doing.
Well, President Trump and Secretary Rubio said that the window was closing, that time is running out here. That's not my opinion, that's what they said.
Look,
I want to ask you a little, go ahead,
wait,
sorry.
wait a second, I just quoted Marco Rubio, who yesterday said about better understanding of the Russian position, so maybe you missed that.
Well, he also said a decision in days needed to be made, and that the U.S. has other things to focus on.
No, we understand the impatience, because in American culture, you create expectations, and you ignite tension around those expectations. This does not help to do real politics, but in our case, as I said, we are always ready for dialogue, ready for negotiations, and we would not, begin by banking on a failure. This would be a characteristic of bad deal makers, inexperienced deal makers.
Others in the Russian government have proposed that the U.S. and Russia could work together in the Arctic. Are there specific areas of discussion for cooperating right now?
You always want me to disclose things.
Well, this is a public statement.
Things which might be discussed by respective officials of Russia and the United States, by those who are responsible for trade, economic cooperation, investments, and so on and so forth. How do you expect a participant of negotiations which are still to reach some kind of specific understanding to disclose details in public? It is not serious.
I'm just
I
read the potential is.
I read President Trump's book, The Art to Make a Deal, and he doesn't advise to disclose information before it's time.
Respectfully, President Trump speaks quite a lot about the things he would like to do with Russia and opportunities to work together. I understand you don't want to. On the specific things President Trump has said in public, one of the things he brought up is that the U.S. could work with Ukraine to operate the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, which is in an area, you know, Zaporizhzhia. Russians control that area right now. Do you agree with President Trump's public statements that the best security would be for the U.S. and Ukraine to operate that together?
No, we never received such an offer. And if we do, we will explain that the power station,
it's already being used.
Zaporozhye nuclear power
it's already
station
being used.
Is run by the Russian Federation state corporation called Rosatom. It is being under monitoring of the IAEA personnel permanently located on the site. And if not for the Ukrainian regular attempts to attack the station and to create a nuclear disaster for Europe and for Ukraine as well,
where you been
the
at?
safety requirements are fully implemented, and it is in very good hands.
So that's a no.
It's a hell no.
No, I don't think any change is conceivable.
Okay, because that was in a public statement from the White House to the media.
We as I said, we did not receive any proposal which would be specific. So, you know, I understand that journalists have to speculate. We cannot speculate on something which is really not being mentioned during the negotiations.
Zaporizhzhia is not being negotiated right now.
Shall I say it for the third time? You wanted me to be brief. You wanted me to be brief.
But I heard you, but I just want to be abundantly clear because that is also widely reported to be in the U.S. proposal currently on the table.
Why don't you ask me about President Trump's position on Crimea?
You liked what President Trump said about Crimea yesterday when he said that it had been under Russian control since 2014?
It's not about liking or disliking. It's about the fact that he said the truth. And when
But he said something specific you liked.
when Zelensky said that this is absolutely excluded because Crimea is part of Ukraine according to the constitution, nobody in
Dub V, what's good with you? Dub V in the building.
reminded him that apart from territorial issues, the Ukrainian constitution guarantees, I quote, the free development, the use and protection of the Russian and other national minorities' language in Ukraine. And they guarantee the development of ethnic, cultural, language, and religious identity of all peoples and national minorities in Ukraine. This is also in the Constitution, but as I mentioned already, and you decided not to go deeper into this topic, nobody in the West even mentions human rights when they demand that Ukraine defeat Russia in the battlefield.
President Trump said Crimea is not even being discussed right now.
Yes, because this is a done deal.
You mean Russia occupies and controls and will not negotiate the future of Crimea? Is that what you're saying?
Russia do not negotiate its own territory. And
So that's
President Trump understands
one
this.
specific thing that you do want in the public space. You said everything else that I've asked you about in the U.S. proposal is too sensitive to discuss. Is there any other part of the U.S. proposal that you do like?
No. I only commented what was said publicly, and I also said that normal negotiators. I emphasize this once again. Normal negotiators.
Normal negotiations.
Through a microphone. They meet and they discuss. They listen to each other. They try to understand. They try to see where a balance of interest can be reached. And this is how our contacts with the American representatives are organized.
Respectfully, you've been in the top levels of Russian diplomacy for 30 years.
For how many?
This isn't for at least 30 years. I mean, you've been in very key diplomatic roles within the top of the Russian diplomatic
For how
system for a
many?
very, very long time.
For how
I don't think
many?
any part of this is typical or normal, to use the word you used. Steve Witkoff is the envoy. Kirill Dmitriev is Vladimir Putin's envoy here. Do you think it's unfortunate that the international system of diplomacy isn't being used more and that it's this kind of one-on-one personal envoy structure?
You did not express your disappointment that the international system of diplomacy was not used for the entire duration of the Biden administration.
No, I was asking
You did not. You
whether
did not.
you were
You
disappointed.
did not. You did not mention that Europeans are really very nervous that they are being marginalized. But I can quote a lot of what Europeans stated. I mentioned already Kaja Kallas and Ursula von der Leyen, who said any deal must make sure that Ukraine is stronger and that Ukraine is on top of Russia. Look, do you need negotiators who believe in this kind of logic and who don't want to look for honest balance of interest? The Trump administration is interested in searching for a balance of interest. They sincerely want to understand better the Russian position, and they're getting this understanding. And we understand better the American position through negotiations and meetings and discussions which we have with them.
Back in January, Russia signed a deal with Iran to become a strategic partner. Would Russia be willing to sever that relationship at the request of the U.S. if it meant better relations with America?
There was never any request like this, and we welcome the process which was initiated between the United States and Iran. We are ready to be helpful if parties believe this can be the case, and they know this.
You were the negotiator back in 2015 on behalf of Russia for that landmark international agreement, the JCPOA. And part of how Russia was helpful was destroying Iran's enriched nuclear material. Is that an offer you would do again?
We were not involved in destroying Iran's nuclear material.
Disposing.
The part of the deal was to move some amount of this material to Russia for keeping.
Safe purposes.
Okay. So
For
not destroying,
keeping.
but keeping. Would you keep Iran's enriched nuclear material that they've made in the past few years? Is that an offer of the U.S.?
We are not putting our nose in the negotiations between two countries, one of which is not Russia. And I said very clearly, I believe, but you wanted a brief answer, I will have to be longer, since it is not probably getting through. We welcome the dialogue between the US and Iran. We would be certainly ready to help if both parties believe this is going to be useful, and they know that we are ready.
Mm-hmm. Well, back then there were sanctions and pressure at the UN. It's a very different dynamic now. I want to ask you quickly about nuclear weapons because Russia is such a nuclear powerhouse. According to U.S. intelligence, Russia is developing a new satellite meant to carry a nuclear weapon, which would knock out other satellites and devastate the U.S. if it's used. That's in publicly published material. Does Russia intend to violate past treaties and actually put a nuclear weapon in space?
Well, before asking this question, you have to check whether this is true or not, what your military...
This is what U.S. intelligence says.
U.S. intelligence, I was listening to President Trump about his views of what is the list of achievements of U.S. intelligence. And I have my own facts on which I rely. We have been promoting for many years in the United Nations a resolution prohibiting putting any nuclear weapons into outer space. The country which is categorically against it is the United States. At the same time, the United States promotes an approach according to which they want to prohibit putting conventional weapons in outer space. And they cannot answer the question, does this mean that nuclear weapons they would be planning to move to the orbit? So my answer is very clear. We have been championing in the United Nations a legal prohibition of placing any nuclear weapons in outer space. And the United States, at least during the Biden administration, this was the case. They were categorically against it.
It was the Trump administration's intelligence community that published those findings just a few weeks ago. Are you saying the Trump administration's intelligence community findings are incorrect in regard to Russia developing a new satellite meant to carry a nuclear weapon?
We did not...
In Kyiv, there was a large Russian attack on that capital city about 1 o'clock in the morning. President Trump has said publicly the Russian strikes are not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop, was his quote. What made it worth killing civilians when Ukraine says it's ready for a ceasefire?
We only target military goals or civilian sites used by the military. President Putin expressed this for so many times, and this is not different this time as well. We never consciously target civilian sites, unlike the Zelensky regime.
So was this an intentional attack then, not a mistake?
If this was a target used by the Ukrainian military, the Ministry of Defense, the commanders in the field have the right to attack them.
So just to be clear, when the President of the United States says, Vladimir, stop, is this a rejection of that request? Was the assessment that because of what you say regarding the concerns that this loss of civilian life made it worth it?
Well, I can assure you that the target attack was not something absolutely civilian like the TV center in Belgrade in 1999. This was an intentional attack against civilian target. In our case, we only target those sites which are used by the military. And regarding the ceasefire and regarding the call to stop, President Putin immediately supported President Trump's proposal a few weeks ago to establish a 30-day ceasefire, provided we do not repeat mistakes of the last 10 years, when deals were signed, and then Ukraine would violate those deals with the support and with encouragement from Biden administration and from European countries. This was the fate of the deal of February 2014. Then this was the fate of the Minsk agreements, and this was the fate of the deal reached on the basis of Ukrainian proposals in Istanbul in April 2022. So President Putin said, ceasefire, yes, but we want the guarantees that the ceasefire would not be used again to beef up Ukrainian military, and that the supplies of arms should stop.
Ukraine accepted on March 11th that idea of a U.S. brokered ceasefire without preconditions. You're saying the preconditions are a negotiation to end something else?
No, it is not a precondition. It is the lessons learned after at least 3 times. The deals similar to the one which we are discussing now were broken by the...
All right, we're going to come back and redirect this. Well, don't approve on me and then all I gotta take a meeting. Hey, remember, move in love, man. If y'all don't move in nothing else, move in love. Make sure y'all put y'all notifications on. Make sure y'all sub to the page. We are going to take a 2-hour break. We're coming back at 9 with more news, more updates. Make sure y'all lock in. We ain't going nowhere, YouTube. It's a forever thing. Join the journey, join the team, Atlas family. We're building. We're a brand. I couldn't sleep last night, so I figured I'd get up and do a live. You know what I mean? I couldn't sleep. I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I was like, man, I'm just gonna do a live. That wasn't the live for today. I just figured I'd do one because I couldn't sleep. So, you know, we're gonna take a break and then start today's actual live. You know, we appreciate everybody that was here thus far. And, you know, like I said, this was one of those, just a 2-hour. Just know great things is happening. We got this no matter what. Love is winning. If the energy of love done already reached the presidency and he's trying to move in peace, then, you know, we all should do so. We got this. It's peace. Hey, make sure y'all go check out the videos and everything like that. Go check out the other videos and stuff that we put out there, man. Replay gang, do your thing. Hey, we got this, Atlas family. They can't stop us. Even if they stopped us. You know? They know that. They see that now. It ain't really the topics that we picking. It's us. It's the space we provide. You know? Lock in with us. I promise you, you're gonna love it here. You know?